Welcome to Storytime with Double O Kills. Today, we're going to read Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss. This is a classic. I'm sure in my life at some point I've heard this book, read to me or read in general, but I've never sat down and read it myself. So we're going to get a little bit of water. Remember to hydrate. We're going to enjoy a book together. Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss, Random House, New York. TM and copyright 1954, renewed 1982 by Dr. Seuss Enterprises LP, all rights reserved, published in the United States by Random House Children's Books, division of Random House Incorporated, New York, originally published by Random House Children's Books, division of Random House Incorporated, New York in 1954. Random House and Colfin are registered trademarks of Random House Incorporated. www.randomhouse.com/kids and www.seussville.com. Educators and librarians for a variety of teaching tools, visit us at www.randomhouse.com/teachers. This title was originally cataloged by the Library of Congress as follows: Giesel Theodore Seuss, 1904. Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss, pseudonym. Pseudonym means a different name. New York Random House, 1954, unpaged, illustrations, 29. It gets into stuff that I'm not going to bother with. For my great friend, Mitsugi Nakamura of Kyoto, Japan. On the 15th of May, in the jungle of Newell, in the heat of the day, in the cool of the pool, he was splashing, enjoying the jungle's great joys, when Horton, the elephant, heard a small noise. So Horton stopped splashing. He looked toward the sound. That's funny, thought Horton. There's no one around. Then he heard it again, just a very faint yelp, as if some tiny person were calling for help. I'll help you, said Horton. But who are you? Where? He looked and he looked. He could see nothing there but a small speck of dust blowing past through the air. I say, okay, so just so you guys can see. Super tiny. Super tiny. I say, murmured Horton, I never heard tell of a small speck of dust that is able to yell. So you know what I think? What I think that there must be someone on top of that small speck of dust. Some sort of a creature of very small size, too small to be seen by an elephant's eyes. Some poor little person who's shaking with fear that he'll blow in the pool. He has no way to steer. I'll just have to save him, because after all, a person's a person, no matter how small. That's true. That's true. So, gently, and using the greatest of care, the elephant stretched out his great trunk through the air, and he lifted the speck of dust and carried it over and placed it down safe on a very soft clover. As you can see. Humph, humphed a voice. Humph, humphed a voice. Humph, humphed a voice. 'Twas a sour kangaroo. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said humph too. Why, that speck is so small as the head of a pin. A person on that? Why, there never has been. They're laughing at him. They're laughing at him. Believe me, said Horton, I tell you sincerely, my ears are quite keen. And I heard him quite clearly. I know there's a person down there, and what's more, quite likely there's 2, even 3, even 4, quite likely a family, for all that we know. A family with children, just starting to grow. So please, Horton said, as a favor to Mia, try not to disturb them. Just please, let them be. I think you're a fool, laughed the sour kangaroo, and the young kangaroo in her pouch said, me too. You're the biggest blame fool in the jungle of Newell. And the kangaroos plunged in the cool of the pool. What terrible splashing, the elephant frowned. I can't let my very small persons get drowned. I've got to protect them. I'm bigger than they. So he plucked up the clover and hustled away. Through the high jungle treetops, the news quickly spread. He talks to a dust speck. He's out of his head. Just look at him with that speck on that flower. And Horton walked worrying almost an hour. Should I put the speck down? Horton thought with alarm. If I do, these small persons may come to great harm. I can't put it down, and I won't. After all, a person's a person, no matter how small. Then Horton stopped walking. The speck voice was talking. The voice was so faint he could just barely hear it. Speak up, please, said Horton. He put his ear near it. My friend, came the voice. You're a very fine friend. You've helped all us folks on this dust speck no end. You've saved all our houses, our ceilings and floors. You've saved all our churches and grocery stores. I don't actually know what the dust speck people talk like, but I'm assuming they have very small vocal cords, which would make them have higher pitched voices. You mean? Horton gasped. You have buildings there too? Oh yes, piped the voice. We most certainly do. I know, called the voice. I'm too small to be seen, but I'm mayor of a town that is friendly and clean. Our buildings to you would seem terribly small, but to us, who aren't big, they are wonderfully tall. My town is called Whoville, for I am a Who, and we Whos are all thankful and grateful to you. And Horton called back to the mayor of the town. You're safe now. Don't worry. I won't let you down. But just as he spoke to the mayor of the speck, 3 big jungle monkeys climbed up on Horton's neck. The Wickersham brothers came shouting, What rot! This elephant's talking to Whos who are not? There aren't any Whos, and they don't have a mayor, and we're going to stop all this nonsense, so there. See how they rhyme that? They snatched Horton's clover. They carried it off to a black-bottomed eagle named Vladikov. A mighty, strong eagle of very swift wing. And they said, Will you kindly get rid of this thing? And before the poor elephant even could speak, that eagle flew off with a flower in his beak. So that's them giving the flower to the bird. All late afternoon and far into the night, that black-bottomed bird flapped his wings in fast flight, while Horton chased after with groans over stones that tattered his toenails and battered his bones, and begged, Please don't harm all my little folks who have as much right to live as us bigger folks too. But far, far beyond him, that eagle kept flapping, and over his shoulder called back, Quit your yapping. I'll fly the night through. I'm a bird. I don't mind, and I'll hide this tomorrow where you'll never find. And at 6:56 the next morning, he did. It sure was a terrible place that he hid it. He let that small clover drop somewhere inside a great patch of clovers, 100 miles wide. Find that, sneered the bird, but I think you will fail. And he left with a flip of his black-bottomed tail. I shall find it, cried Horton. I'll find it or bust. I shall find my friends on my small speck of dust. And clover by clover with care, he picked up and searched them and called, Are you there? But clover by clover he found that the one that he sought was just not around. And by noon, poor old Horton, more dead than alive, had picked, searched, and piled up 9,005. And then on through the afternoon, hour after hour, till he found them at last on the 3,000,000th flower. "My friends," cried the elephant, "tell me, do tell, are you safe? Are you sound? Are you whole? Are you well?" The 3,000,000th flower. From down on the speck came the voice of the mayor. We've really had trouble, much more than our share. When that black-bottom birdie let go and we dropped, we landed so hard that our clocks have all stopped. Our teapots are broken, our rocking chairs smashed, and our bicycle tires all blew up when we crashed. So Horton, please, pleaded that voice of the mayor's. Will you stick by us while we're making repairs? Of course, Horton answered. Of course I will stick. I will stick by you small folks through thin and through thick. Yeah, they're hard-working. Humph, humphed a voice. For almost 2 days, you've run wild and insisted on chatting with persons who've never existed. Such carryings on in our peaceable jungle. We've had quite enough of your bellowing bungle, and I'm here to state, snapped the big kangaroo, that your silly nonsensical game is all through. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, Me too! With the help of the Wickersham brothers and dozens, the Wickersham uncles and Wickersham cousins, and Wickersham in-laws whose help I've engaged, you're going to be roped and you're going to be caged, and as for your dust speck, that we shall boil in a hot steaming kettle of bezelnut oil. Boil it! Gasped Horton. Oh, that you can't do! It's all full of persons. They'll prove it to you. Mr. Mayor! Mr. Mayor! Horton called. Mr. Mayor! You've got to prove now that you really are there. So call a big meeting, get everyone out, make every who holler, make every who shout, make every who scream. If you don't, every who is going to end up in bezelnut stew. And down on the dust speck, the scared little mayor quick called a big meeting in Whoville Town Square. And his people cried loudly. They cried out in fear. We are here! We are here! We are here! We are here! The elephant smiled. That was clear as a bell. You kangaroos surely heard that very well. All I heard, snapped the big kangaroo, was the breeze and the faint sound of wind through the far distant trees. I heard no small voices, and you didn't either. And the kangaroo in her pouch said, Me neither. Grab him, they shouted, and cage him, the big dope. Lasso his stomach with 10 miles of rope. Tie the knots tight so he'll never shake loose. Then dunk that dumb speck in the bezelnut juice. Horton fought back with great vigor and vim, but the Wickersham gang was too many for him. They beat him. They mauled him. They started to haul him into his cage. But he managed to call to the mayor, Don't give up! I believe in you all. A person's a person, no matter how small. And you very small persons will not have to die if you make yourselves heard. So come on now and try! The mayor grabbed a tom-tom. He started to smack it. And all over Whoville they whooped up a racket. They rattled tin kettles, they beat on brass pans, on garbage pail tops, and on old cranberry cans. They blew on bazookas and blasted their great toots on clarinets, oompas, and boompas, and flutes. Great gusts of loud racket rang high through the air. They rattled and shook the whole sky. And the mayor called up through the howling, mad hullabaloo, Hey, Horton, how's this? Is our sound coming through? And Horton called back, I can hear you just fine, but the kangaroo's ears aren't as strong quite as mine. They don't hear a thing. Are you sure all your boys aren't doing their best? Are they all making noise? Are you sure every Who down in Whoville is working? Quick, look through your town. Is there anyone shirking? Through the town rushed the mayor, from the east to the west. But everyone seemed to be doing his best. Everyone seemed to be yapping or yipping, and everyone seemed to be beeping and bipping, but it wasn't enough. All his ruckus and roar, he had to find someone to help him make more. He raced through each building. He searched floor to floor, and just as he felt he was getting nowhere and almost about to give up in despair, he suddenly burst through a door that the mayor discovered one shirker quite hidden away in the Fairfax apartments, apartment 12J. A very small shirker named Jojo was standing, just standing, and bouncing a yo-yo, not making a sound, not a yip, not a chirp, and the mayor rushed inside and he grabbed the young twerp. It's a lovely apartment. It's quite nice. And he climbed with the lad up the Eiffelberg Tower. This, cried the mayor, is your town's darkest hour. The time for all Whos who have blood that is red to come to the aid of their country, he said. We've got to make noises in greater amounts, so open your mouth, lad, for every voice counts. Thus he spoke as he climbed. When they got to the top, the lad cleared his throat, and he shouted out, "Yop!" And that yop, that one small extra yop, put it over. Finally, at last, from that speck on that clover, their voices were heard. They rang out clear and clean, and the elephant smiled. Do you see what I mean? They've proved they are persons, no matter how small, and their whole world was saved by the smallest of all. How true, yes, how true, said the big kangaroo, and from now on you know what I'm planning to do. From now on, I'm going to protect them with you. And the young kangaroo in her pouch said, Me too! From sun in the summer, from rain when it's fallish, I'm going to protect them, no matter how smallish. Wow. I don't think I've ever actually had that book read to me or read it in its entirety. I knew some of the premise, but that was pretty new to me. And I gotta say, there were two things that really stood out. Two things that I thought really carried some clout. Sorry, I like to rhyme after I read these. The first was everybody. Everybody, no matter what, deserves representation. I mean, it's something that freedom is based on, that everybody is their own self enough that they have the right to choose their own life, their own destinies, their own futures, their own plans as much as they can. As much as they can. And two, and maybe this is my own personal bias, so I apologize if this doesn't fit for you, but it struck a chord with me on belief. To be told over and over again by everybody around you that it is not so, that it is not true, that you are wrong, that you are an idiot, to be beaten, to be tied up, to be caged, to be held back To be stifled and stammered and stomped on and mistreated and mocked and teased, and all because you believed something that others around you didn't. Not only does everyone deserve a right to exist, but they deserve a right to believe as they choose. And I'm going to say something that I hope doesn't offend. But that's one of the things that I appreciate about my beliefs, which is Christianity. That everyone is given free will to choose what they want. Now, it's not wrong to say somebody's wrong if you believe they're wrong. But to try and force your beliefs on somebody without them choosing to believe that, you can try and convince them, you can argue with them, you can debate with them, you can talk with them, etc., etc., etc. To try and force your beliefs on somebody, a threat of violence and things like that, it's completely unacceptable. And real, this is again my personal belief here. Real Christianity won't force anything on you. If you choose to not follow, don't follow. That's what the Bible says. You don't have to follow. You choose the outcome. You choose like the consequences, but you have the freedom to choose. And no matter what you believe, you have the right to choose. You have the freedom to choose what you want to accept, what you want to believe. And there was definitely undertones of oppression and maligning somebody for believing something different than everybody else. Oh my goodness. We're going to beat you up. We're going to show you you're wrong, and we're going to destroy anything that might make you think otherwise. And that's not okay. Christians have done that in the past. That hasn't been okay. Other religions have done that in the past. It hasn't been okay then either. Political organizations have done that in the past. It hasn't been okay. It's never been okay. Never been okay in any way, shape, or form. Now I'm getting all riled up. So I'm going to stop. And I'm going to go read the chat. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed Horton Hears a Who. If you've ever felt like a who, ever felt like you aren't heard, nobody believes you're there, nobody accepts you, have you ever felt like Horton, where you think, man, everybody is just bullying me to believe what they want me to believe, and they won't even, they're insulting me and being mean to me and beating me, and I mean, like, this still happens in the world. Well, I'm sorry. That'll never happen here. And I hope that you can come here and know that no matter what, I love you. Doesn't matter what you've done. Doesn't matter what you do. Doesn't matter who you are. I love you. Platonically speaking, of course. But I do.